Here.
Smaller files.
Watch yourself. Yeah, your bag. Here, I got your bag.
I got one more to come.
Okay, let's go live. We are live. Great. Welcome back, everybody, to Senate Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs, and we are moving from labor back to our vaping bill, our tobacco substitutes bill, and we are turning to the Commissioner of the Department of Liquor and Lottery because they have there are many sections in this bill that engage them in their work. And I welcome Wendy Knight.
Thank you. Great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. Wendy Knight, for the record, Commissioner of the Department of Liquor and Lottery. So I thought what I would do is just give some high-level points, if that's okay, Madam Chair, and then you can walk me through the sections that you would like us to speak to.
Yeah, and have you been filled of what we've turned into studies and what you are now responsible for?
Yes, I have been.
Generously gave you.
Actually, it was our idea.
Yeah,
It was the Department of Liquor and Lottery's idea. And TAX said, we have never heard of anyone asking to take responsibility.
So why don't we start?
Thank you.
So why don't we start with section 18?
Okay, we
Which
can
is
do
what
that.
we're referring to.
Yes, exactly. So, as I said, the Department of Liquor and Lottery and TAX have already discussed this, for numerous reasons. It makes sense for the Department of Liquor and Lottery to have legislative authority of licensing the wholesalers of tobacco. We obviously license the retailers of tobacco as well as alcohol. And so we have offered to take that over. I think what would be needed is language that gives the department the regulatory authority to license in this section.
And Jen is not able to be with us because she hasn't figured out how to clone herself yet. But if you
We will have
could work with
Yeah.
Jen Carby,
Yeah.
our commissioner, work with Jen Carby on that language.
Yes, we can-
Tax is also tax is needed.
Yes,
So-
absolutely, we can do that. The effective date, we would need a year to put that together. There's some moving pieces that have to happen, so we concur with tax. The effective date would be July 1st, 2027. The move
Not
that,
January 15th.
correct. We don't need a report or a study, we just need to make a plan, and then we would make that effective July 1st, 2027.
And have you discussed that? Is that who had established this date in the first place?
Because collectively, we did with tax, the Department of Liquor and Lottery.
So you would propose the January date.
Correct,
Okay, and you're
Yeah.
not proposing July.
correct, July 1st, 2027.
Is that, and I see it. You did propose January.
I didn't propose January. We didn't propose January. Sorry. I'm saying July.
I'd
Did I
like to
say
weigh in with the AG
So-
sitting behind you.
the wrong date?
I don't think we knew about that date, but if, is there a reason why you think you need that much time?
Yes, there is a reason why we think we need that much time.
Yeah, we would have to do a bunch.
Just identify
For
yourself.
the
I'm
record.
sorry, for the record, Brendan King, I'm the Deputy Chief of Enforcement at Liquor and Lottery. I think the intent of us asking for July 1st, 2027 is that we need to work with our vendor to produce the licensing and all the back end work in our Salesforce platform to get that enacted. It needs to be tested, it needs to be vetted, and giving us until July 1st of 2027, considering the time till the end of the session, that would be most appropriate for us to get all that work done.
Okay. Well, we'll see that in the new language and further discussion of that. Right. Great. And now then section 8, we turn into tax and DLL working on the stamping, coming back to us with, it's just, that's a super heavy lift at this point, shifting from taxing by, concentration versus taxing by weight and volume. And so we have turned section 8. The tax department is going to come back with a recommendation, having worked with you, as to, and to recommend the next steps of how that will actually be accomplished. Okay? And, so I think then we are, you have, and sadly, I don't, Jen, when she did this great, I don't have a section number for the expanded enforcement authority that you have.
Yeah, so.
Do you have a section number for that?
I have a page number, so I can tell
Okay,
you what
give us
I'm
a
looking
page.
at, which is.
Because
Page 13, it's subsection 1014. But mine looks like the last bill.
so,
It says enforcement, use of
Yeah,
funds from
it's-
licensing fees, penalties.
okay,
So. I guess I want to talk about it in terms of, if I can.
Yeah.
It's all tied into a position. You wanted to fund the position for the
I believe you
department?
need a position, you need another investigator, and you're not allowed to say it out loud, but I believe that's what you actually need.
So let me talk about that a little bit. Aside from the fact that the governor, we have an affordability issue in the state. The governor doesn't want to grow the public sector because he's trying to make Vermont affordable for Vermonters. So we all know that. Let's leave that aside for a second, or let's move on.
That's
beyond-
actually not in this section.
Right, so I'm trying to, I'd like to talk about the position. So the way the position is structured is it's a perverse incentives because you're proposing to fund the position with penalties. And I think that a couple things with that, right? You're setting up that perverse incentives that we get a position funded if we are issuing violations. You can understand that that might be a perverse incentive.
Sort of like policing and tickets.
Correct. So the department under my leadership and Brandon's leadership and Skylar's leadership has an enormous amount of integrity. But at some point you may end up with, we're not in leadership. So you might end up with leaders who don't have that integrity. So I think that that's a perverse incentive. I also think that what we're trying to do is reduce the amount of people who are selling to minors. So we would want to see the number of violations going down, right? Because we're educating them, they're doing what they're supposed to be. So we would want to see the number of violations.
You are addressing section 17 on page 29, just so that we know where we are.
My apologies.
No, it's okay, it's just. We just
All
got,
right, you want me to, sorry, Madam Chair.
No.
Bring me back where you want me to talk about.
no, you're wanting to talk about the investigator and how you think it's a reverse incentive.
Right,
I appreciate that. And it is here on in section 7.
Yeah, so we wouldn't, the other issue is that we're not structured in a silo. So we don't have investigators that just work on alcohol or just work on tobacco or just work on lottery. So
How many investigators do you have currently?
we have 14 sworn law enforcement officers. 2 are senior leadership, Brandon and Skylar, and then we have 12 that are investigators and sergeants, team of 12. So we don't structure, the way the language is, we don't structure our investigators to just work on
Anyone?
components. So that's not how we operate, the way the language is reflective of how we operate.
Do you feel your investigators are actually, given the number of young people who are getting vapes delivered straight to their homes? Do you think your investigators are actually, one of the frustrations is how many minors are actually getting vapes at the moment, from adults, from minors, from online sales. How effective are your investigators actually being at the moment if we, and enforcers are being at the moment if this is just growing like topsy? I mean, our revenue is going down, but our use is skyrocketing.
We could certainly get you data on that. I don't have the
I think
data
we
here.
have the data on that. We have been presented the data in this committee on this problem, which is vape use and nicotine use is rising at an alarming rate. Our revenues are falling, and I'm happy to have the tobacco and vaping revenues falling, but that's falling for a reason, which is we are if use is rising and rates are, and revenues falling, there's a reason for that. And that means we're not probably capturing those sales. That means those sales are either happening illegally or they're happening, they're getting them in some fashion. So I think that's one of our committee's, I think, biggest concerns is how is this being enforced at the moment?
And that's what I'm talking about. I can get the data from our department on the compliance and the violations and the enforcement
That would be.
that we can get.
And so your testimony on section 17 is that you don't need another investigator at the
That's correct.
Okay,
Okay, so now you wanted me to go back to enforcement.
right. We're on page 13 of section 1014.
Okay,
I think that's where you are.
yes. Right. And I'm gonna have the deputy chief speak to enforcement and how we handle enforcement.
Sure.
Sorry, here.
And yeah, pull up a chair, Brand. Join that. Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this is the section that Madam Chair would like us to focus on.
Well, I think that's, there is an expanded enforcement authority, for vapes, like you have over alcohol.
I believe that we already have that enforcement authority because of the licensing of the retailers that sell those products. Does that make sense? As you know, the department licenses all retailers that sell both combustible traditional tobacco products and other tobacco products such as vapes. And we routinely issue violations, etc., for illegal sales of those products, such as selling to a minor, and the various provisions in our general regulations.
Yeah, so that's is that this section here already exists. We already have that enforcement authority.
And how, Brandon, we're just hearing the data on the increased number of use among our young people. How are you guys addressing that now? How are you taking that on board as a problem? And what are you doing? What's your plan to address that?
Are you specifically in the online marketplace?
Both, I think. I mean, I think that what we're hearing from doctors, parents, students, counselors at schools, kids are getting it through parents, other kids, and mostly a lot online.
Yes, so to address your question related to the online compliance that we did over 100 online compliance checks last year with our team and referred, I'd have to call it around 35 cases to the AG's office. So to answer your question, we do those checks. It is part of our expectations for our team that they are doing those checks routinely. Now, I will just say that that's a complex world, right? That involves basically just an investigator doing a Google search and trying to find a website that sells those products, entering the website, seeing if they can purchase a product and have it shipped to Vermont. And then when that happens, those cases get referred to Rose over at the AG's office.
And so just over a third of the cases are roughly.
And that's the data we can specifically get you.
So, Brandon, in an ideal world, given how complex that is, how can we have a more effective? How could we have a more effective enforcement then? I mean, I appreciate it's complex. I mean, I think we all appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't think I have a great answer for you on that, quite frankly. I think all the states are struggling with this in the online marketplace, both not only for tobacco, but all regulated products, right? There's this giant universe of the World Wide Web and all these different websites, and states are really struggling with how to rein that in. And I don't know if we have a perfect system, but we do have a system that we do try to address it as best we can.
Yeah, Brandon.
Tell me a little bit about how effective your system is. How do you measure results, and what kind of results are you seeing?
Well, to answer that question, I think that really what we're trying to do is identify the companies that are shipping into the state illegally, and so that we as a state can go after those companies and stop that from happening. Right now, Are we able to identify every company that is doing that? No, I think that's quite frankly an impossible task, right? Because like I said, there's no list of these, there's no national database of these websites that are selling these regulated products. It simply involves labor of somebody sitting in front of a computer, trying to do a Google search and seeing if that company will then ship to Vermont.
And then when you do that, and you so make some solicitation and one or more companies send to Vermont, what do you do then?
That case, we document that case through a report. We log the evidence like we would in any case. And then all that gets packaged up and sent over to the AG's office for their action.
Then what action do you see as a result?
I would refer to the AG's office on that.
Rose, would you be kind of?
Sure. So and I'll say that DLL's investigators on this front are amazing. They spend a lot of time sort of looking at websites, trying to get the package shipped to them. We're looking to see if the website actually enforces even an age gate. They're not supposed to ship any of these products to Vermont, but at least are they trying to make sure that the person is 21? And a lot of the websites don't. So when they send us that, when they actually get the product and it is either a tobacco or nicotine product, they'll let me know. We then perform a civil investigation where we subpoena the company and ask for their records and how many other shipments have they sent into our state in violation of Vermont law. I'll tell you the frustrating thing is that some of these companies will then close and they probably resurface under a different website. It's hard to figure that out. But if they remain in business, then we enter into negotiations for penalties on the shipments that they put into Vermont.
And the penalties, are you seeking it through civil suit?
Yes, if we need to. I mean, so far I've taken this over, I think about 1.5 years ago. And so far there hasn't been a lawsuit, but there's been settlement negotiations.
Any settlement negotiations result in anything of value, even the value approaching the investigative costs?
So what we try to do is under Vermont law, we can seek somewhere around $15,000 in penalties per sale. So we negotiate less than that, but also injunctive release, like you can't do this to Vermont. You have to put on your website clear language that you will not ship into Vermont. So that like if someone actually goes to the website, that will pop up and they'll see that. So that's all included in how we try to resolve these cases.
And how does somebody verify their age online?
They should ask for like a driver's license or some other government identification. A lot of these websites we're learning will just say, are you over 21? And if the DLL investigator says yes, that seems to work in some of these situations. So
We dealt with self-attestation in
yeah,
our last session.
yeah.
You know,
So not
that
great in
was-
this context, right?
And then of the monies that you've recovered from the civil suits that you filed, you said you've been doing this about a year. What have you recovered?
So far, I'm still in negotiation with a few companies, but so far only 2,500.
$2,500. What do you figure? it
That was for
costs to
one
do all
sale.
of this?
What's that?
What do you figure it costs to do all of this?
That's a good question. I'm not sure.
Question. that
More
I'm
than
asking
$2,500.
Yeah.
Is, is this an effective program to both deter and to recover costs and punish if necessary? Do you think it's an effective program as we have it established right now?
I think that the importance of this is pretty clear, right? And I
Right.
think that if we aren't doing it, then nobody else is gonna do it. So I think is the return on the investment there? I think the answer to that is probably no, but it is important work, right? So sometimes that's what you need to do in
Yeah.
a regulatory environment.
Yep, and Rose.
Senator, I would just add, I mean, I'm in constant conversations with other AAGs from other states, and Vermont does have a reputation of being sort of strict about their online sales ban in the industry. So, like I said, sometimes I've never really heard the expression whack-a-mole until I took this job, and it's truly a whack-a-mole situation because these websites can close down or they can be anywhere. But I do think that we do make progress because, we do get websites to shut down, and at least temporary, and if they reemerge somehow, we'll try to figure that out. So, I mean, money isn't the only thing that's of value here. I think we have a pretty good reputation of going after online sales.
And we will know that we've been successful when this alarming increase of nicotine usage among young people starts bending in another direction.
Great.
That is, I think, probably our signal for how we're doing.
Mhm.
So continue because there are quite a few other places where DLL is involved in this bill.
So we've already talked about the wholesale licensing. We talked about the position, we talked about enforcement. We're not in favor of additional fees for the retailers. Retailers are really struggling right now. They're struggling to stay in business. They're struggling to pay their workers. Some of the suggested language is suggesting 1,000 or 2,000. I don't know the exact, but a lot of money for clerks. I think that's really unrealistic and not fair to just issue a high fee to someone who's making minimum wage. I think that there is. Sorry.
I don't want to see if you were going to still speak to it, but I do have a question on this. So
The piece.
I think it's been presented to us that Vermont is more relatively unique in that we combine alcohol and tobacco. Like our neighbors all apply for alcohol license, so to sell it, and a tobacco license. If the fees were the same, so if we basically made it revenue neutral, would you support us at least allowing to split those two apart so that stores could just choose to sell alcohol and choose to not get the license to sell?
So I think Brandon will be able to speak to how it's structured right now.
Yeah, so
So we're talking about, a number of years ago, we coupled
Yeah.
the alcohol and tobacco license. So if you had an alcohol license, you could get a tobacco license for free. I think that's what we're reviewing here, and it's being proposed that we decouple those. And because basically, quite honestly, we're enabling tobacco licenses, tobacco, which is having such negative impacts on our taxpayers and on Medicaid and on the health of our young people and our adults. We're basically giving that license for free. It's sort of like talking about perverse incentive. That's a perverse incentive. So that is, I think, what we're trying to get at, and that is what is at the moment. And
So-
decoupling those is what we're.
I think Brandon will talk about the current structure because I think there's some confusion about that, and then I can speak to whether or not we would support.
We get to anchor ourselves where we are in the bill, because actually without our legislative council, we have, as I said, the summary of the sections, but we don't have the section numbers. Can anyone, Rose or Jill or whoever give us the actual, section we're dealing with?
Talk about the fees.
Is it the decoupling piece there or the fees there?
Yes, right here,
Structure.
page 4.
Okay, license required,
License required,
fee and
fee
issuance.
issuance. Yeah.
Is that right, Rose?
Yeah,
Jill,
going
is
down.
that the decoupling area?
Right. The last
Okay,
paragraph
right,
on
yeah.
that page.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So I guess I'll start with this. So there are so retailers in Vermont need both a tobacco license to sell combustible tobacco products, traditional tobacco products, and then a tobacco substitute endorsement to sell vapes and the like. In Vermont, you have to have a tobacco license in order to qualify for a tobacco substitute license. The problem that you are addressing here, or asking me to address here, is the fact that in the statute currently, it talks about if you're applying for a liquor license, the applicant shall pay the fee in section 7 VSA 204. Now, there is no tobacco license fee in 7 VSA 204. There is only an alcohol license. So
Is that
that
as
is
a
the,
result of
that is
us
the
uniting
couple,
them?
that is the couple, if you will, provision. We don't internally call it coupled, but that's our read on the statute, that if they are applying for a tobacco license with an alcohol license, they do not pay the $150 fee.
Right.
Are they separate forms?
Yes, separate applications within our system.
Okay, so they apply for a liquor license, then they apply for a tobacco license, then maybe the add-on. Correct. But they only pay one fee for both.
They would pay the alcohol fee, for the alcohol license that they are applying for.
but they pay nothing for the tobacco.
Right, so don't think of it as one fee. You have an alcohol to license fee and then a zero fee for the tobacco.
Right, they pay zero.
Correct.
So I don't like that.
No, and that's what sort of slightly,
So,
or sorry, David, you have a question.
Well, I'm just wondering, why not take the opposite perspective? That is just have one form and pay once. And all the businesses twice. And get it quick.
Statute dictates that those are separate
Yeah,
applications.
statute is what we're doing. Statute's just got a couple word changes. Just curious why we can't take that approach.
We put them together a number of years ago. I can't remember when. It's been united for a while, separate forms, but united fee. And I think what's being proposed here is tobacco, separating them out.
Separate fee.
And we can, and having the fee increase substantially as a disincentive for continuing to sell these challenging products.
So I remember Dick Moss, Dick Moss's general store. He's like, I'm not sell cigarettes but tomorrow. But I remember, I think he has a liquor store, and so he just kept selling cigarettes. But I really think it would be good policy for us to break these apart so that you apply for. I'm the $1,000 thing. I don't want to make money at any point. I don't want to break the back to the little guy. But at the very same point, I'd like them to be able to sell beer and wine. And then if that store owner consciously just doesn't want to sell tobacco, I think putting a small fee in a separate process for them to be able to put cigarettes in front of all their customers makes a lot of good policy sense. It was said that other states do that. Is this abnormal as far as you know, that we couple these things? And
I can't really talk to what other states do.
We can get Jen to weigh in on it.
I'm not trying to make money off the little guy, but I
Understood.
like the idea
Yeah.
of splitting these apart so you can sell beer and alcohol, choose consciously to not pay the money.
Dave,
Just curious if there's any doubt about the overlap between the two. How many stores sell both as opposed to stores that only sell one or the other?
I think I don't have the raw numbers on that. I think, obviously you all have seen vape type shops in maybe your jurisdictions, but a vape shop, a true, smoke shop, if you will,
That
that
has a
only
separate-
sells, those were the people that would pay both fees for a tobacco license and a tobacco substitute license because they do not have a liquor license.
and you enforce them as well.
Yes.
The Brandon, if you'd be kind enough to get us the statistics on how many vape shops there are, how many of the tobacco licenses are sold independent of alcohol licenses, how many licenses we do
Yeah.
both.
we can
That would be,
follow up.
I think that would be helpful just to give people.
Just for clarity, it's been a couple of weeks since we've been into this.
Yeah.
So you're advocating a third license, which is a non-tobacco.
Tobacco substitute, yeah.
Substitute, so it's a third license for company.
I wasn't, I was not recommending anything. I was just
That
trying
exists.
to answer your question.
That is it.
It's already present.
We already have it, David.
Yeah.
But you're not advocating like a nicotine license,
No, this is,
which would be both.
So what I'd support is an alcohol license and then a nicotine, which includes license with no add-ons. So that's
tobacco
maybe
license.
your point to simplify things.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to complicate. Complicated.
we can go back to Rose's, that's when she's behind us after you guys are done.
So we will get you data on how many are the combined alcohol tobacco licenses for the retail stores, how many just have tobacco only. And back to your point, Senator Chittenden, I hear what you're saying.
Just if other states are splitting it apart, then I
Right,
don't like that.
yeah.
Public.
So philosophically, I understand what you're saying.
So here we have 700 stores that sell cigarettes, and I'd love it if we had less stores that sold cigarettes. We're
Yeah.
coupling these things. I think we're encouraging
Yeah.
more cigarette sales throughout the state.
So we can get back to you on that.
Right.
I mean, mostly it's the fees for the retailer, we do not support. I think the penalties is a different conversation, right? I think that there's could be a lot of agreement on the higher penalties. Because if you think of philosophically, just because someone wants to have a fee to sell a product, a legal product, should not be paying such an exorbitant fee, in my view, right? But where you want to incentivize them to do the right thing, you don't want them to be selling to minors, right? That sort of falls in the penalty area. And I think that there's
So you would support increasing penalties.
perhaps, I think that I'd like to get some data from you on how many violations do we have now? Are we seeing an uptick in the amount of people who have retail tobacco licenses or that are not abiding by our laws, that provide, you know, if there's a lot of violations, I think that justifies a higher penalty.
Well, I think we turn to Brandon then and say, what are, as you enforce vape shops in particular. But many of the tobacco shops sell these sort of insidious devices that pretend to be something else. What deceptive devices or whatever we want to call them. How's enforcement going on those? And I know you send people in to pretend to be minors or who are minors and see how they do. How are you doing on that?
I guess that's what I was suggesting. We would
Yeah.
send you the data. Like we
Uh-oh.
have a whole list of data of, are we seeing an uptick in compliance issues? Is there an uptick in violations? I mean, that data we can gather and share with you.
I think our compliance rates are traditionally right around 90% year over year. That has not changed. I did our sign our reporting for this last federal fiscal year, and it was right about 91%, I believe. And
That's true for vape shops too.
well, that is all the tobacco.
That's all
licenses.
universe.
That's the whole universe. It would be anything from a convenience store to a vape shop and see or I call it or everybody else call it.
I guess I'd go back to the comment you made to Wendy, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but for me, tax affects behavior. Tobacco, nicotine addiction, and tobacco are costing the state hundreds of millions of dollars. It's the impact of selling this, of this product, these products with Vermonters is having a huge impact on our state budget, on our lives, on our public health. So while you don't support increasing fees or taxes, those, if we're trying to reduce and affect behavior and reduce the public spend, I don't know how you can't support increasing a barrier to continued addiction.
I am simply saying that asking retailers, Vermont small businesses, to pay $1,000 fee to have a license is not something we would support. That's what I'm saying. That you're going from $100 to $1,000 just to have that license is not something that we could support.
It's a jump too far.
I agree with your sentiment there. I think $1,000 might be a bit much for now. I just really like the idea of tracking with our neighbors and also just splitting these things apart. So you have to apply
Right.
for an alcohol license, you got to apply for a tobacco
Right.
license.
Agreed.
Fee structure be reasonable.
But I also think that all of us who enable things that are harming Vermonters and harming our state budget need to be accountable and need to be appreciate that's a piece of what they're partaking.
Well, and
So-
I guess that's where I get back to the penalties. If the retailers who have a license are not doing what they're supposed to be doing and are selling to minors, because it's not just selling tobacco and vaping products. They're allowed to do that if you're 18 and older. But if you're selling to minors, that's the problem.
That is
Right? And
what
that's
we're
what
trying to
we can, I think we can all get behind that, especially in the deceptive products as well. Like, we don't want that. We don't want minors to be having access to this. That's what we do on our end, is we try to prevent that.
Rose.
Just for your information, I mean, I think the $1,000 is something we can discuss. But I did do some research. The fee hasn't been increased since 2016. And it went from 100 to 110, and then the endorsement license got added on to that. So it has been quite a time since the fee was increased.
Thanks, because I remember somebody had asked that earlier. Great. Well, thank you. We would look, David.
Just one question. So I'm curious what the position is on your agency on removing the consequence of your decisions to purchase or completely removing a section about.
I'd have to get back to you on that. That wasn't in my, I don't know what section.
The penalties for youth who purchase or are
Whole
in
section.
possession of nicotine
Page
products.
7, Wendy?
Page 7.
Yeah. I could get back to you on that.
Sorry, David, what was your question? This
What our
entire
position
page is.
I think this contemplates to not penalize kids at all.
Right.
Yeah.
This is something we've been trying to get at for a long time. It's not penalize the kid.
There's also the perspective that decisions in life have consequences, and you learn that as a youth. 21 years old is certainly a point of maturity where call them kids, call them whatever you want. They have to understand the consequences of decisions. And to remove that consequence, is sending another message. It's equally disturbing.
Take it.
Anecdotally, I hear that kids are walking into stores buying vapes and they're not getting carded, or they're using fake IDs that they're buying online. So I don't know how valid that is or isn't, but I gotta say, I'm interested in having my 13-year-old go out and try to buy some vapes this weekend, and I'm gonna report back if that works. But if he does that,
You get Brandon's
what are the
number.
penalties?
Get Brandon's number.
Is that breaking the rule? I mean, what would be the slap on, what would he get if he tried to do that?
Yeah, so currently it is either a $25.
$25, I
Okay.
think it is.
But the parent.
Through a civil violation, a traffic ticket,
It's, as I recall, pretty modest. It's $25.
$25.
But for a kid, that's a lot. I mean, or maybe not now, but it certainly was when we got lessons. And
So the store clerk.
we had,
called
I
the
had
police.
thought we had gotten rid of that. There was an attempt to get rid of that, to not punish.
It may currently,
It's
not super, it may currently go to diversion with the other possession.
Yeah, I
Consumption tickets that were issued in the past as a fine that now go to diversion.
when Jen gets to join us, we'll have an answer on that. Okay,
So the one
Anything
final
further
thing I
to the-
would like to add is that for the deceptive tobacco products, this
right.
whole section here, we're supportive of that.
Okay, just give up the
Page
section.
12, sorry.
I know, we don't have a good,
Page
index.
12, I don't, sections I see 10, 13.
It's 1013, top of
That's what I
page 12.
Yeah.
And you support this, I assume.
Yes,
This is
we
the
do.
prohibition.
Yes, we do.
Great. Thank you, DLL, for supporting this. Great. Yeah, these we got to see some of these the other day.
Yes, and I've seen them too, and
They're really, it's a little enraging, or not a little, I guess enraged, can't be qualified, just,
not okay.
yeah, not okay. Great, we look forward to the statistics and the data, because it's always interesting. You guys generally come in and give us a update on enforcement, so this is interesting, and if Thomas was to send his 13-year-old in, how would we protect him? Could he be a temporary employee of yours?
Yes.
In theory.
In theory, yes.
The retailer would call the local police, the police would come and they could issue a $25 fine.
A civil ticket,
They don't have to call, they don't have to call you, they can.
Correct.
Okay.
They could do it.
but you could be deputized. Young Thomas would be deputized by Brandon to go and do this.
No, that's not how it works.
What is the experience in terms of issuing tickets or holding responsibility because of these kinds of violations? Does it happen?
Yeah, and that's the
Within-
data that we could follow up with.
Yes, it
specific
certainly
data.
does happen. Yeah. We do compliance checks regularly on these businesses, right? And so if, say, a clerk sells to an employee minor, the clerk gets a ticket through a Vermont civil violation complaint. That's currently $100. And then more importantly, the licensee also gets a fine through an administrative violation
And
from the department.
And that's the penalty you're okay with our taking up.
Perhaps. I would like to get you some information on that. I
Okay,
think that there's some opportunity for agreement on penalties.
Yeah, I will be clear that the penalties assessed by the department through the administrative process, those are set by the board, and we do have the ability to increase those when
On your,
Correct.
on our own. Correct.
so Jen Carby, our legislative counsel, has arrived and has joined us, which is wonderful. We welcome Jen. And I believe Jen probably knows by heart the penalty that we still have for kids who are trying to purchase. We think it's still $25 and or diversion. So anyway, we'll come back to that. If you'd be kind enough to get us that data, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And we will see you probably next week.
I'm on vacation next week. Do you mean,
I'm not next week.
you mean the weekend?
I'm at town meetings next week.
Oh,
I'm glad you're on
good.
vacation.
Yes, I need it. sunny California, very California.
Oh, man, well,
The week
so
after,
panel some of that.
yes, I will. I'll bring back. the
So on the following week.
Yes.
The next week, we're in session. How about that?
That sounds great.
Great, Brandon, good to have you. Thank you, Wendy, as always.
Thank you. Thank you.
And, next up, we have a bunch of changes.
It's almost tripping.
Bye. Yeah, we may have to, or maybe you could come and just quickly present it at the end when we're voting 2:30. Okay, we're way behind schedule, but we've had a thorough conversation about labor, and we're having a pretty good conversation here about reducing the nicotine addiction of our young people and how we're accomplishing that. And I'd like to keep that front and center for why we're even doing this. It's the consumer protection bill. Jeff Willett, you have been extremely patient, and we are very grateful to you for being so patient. The legislative process, you cannot say we're not thorough. We're thorough and thoughtful, and you are seeing an example of it today. So welcome to Senate Economic Development. It's good to have you. We also have the jurisdiction of consumer protection, as you are now appreciating, and labor, and liquor and hiring, and campus, and all the other things. So we welcome you. If you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself and give us your testimony.
Bet. Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to testify today. No problem waiting for this opportunity. My name is Jeff Willett, and I'm testifying on behalf of the Progressive Policy Institute, where I serve as director of PPI's Project to End Smoking. I've spent more than 20 years in senior leadership roles in tobacco control. From 2018 to early 2025, I served as a national vice president with the American Heart Association, where I helped lead AHA's efforts to reduce youth vaping and advance AHA's tobacco endgame strategies. Prior to that, I was a vice president at Truth Initiative, really at the time where Juul e-cigarettes were emerging on the market. So most of my effort was focused on the emergence of Juul. And I've directed state tobacco control programs in New York and Ohio. So throughout my career, I've remained focused on the three longstanding goals of tobacco control, which are preventing youth initiation, promoting smoking cessation, and eliminating exposure to secondhand smoke. Those are related to the key public health outcomes. And the Progressive Policy Institute focuses on advancing pragmatic science-based policies that both protect youth and accelerate smoking cessation. So the Food and Drug Administration Center for Tobacco Products has determined several nicotine pouches meet a regulatory public health standard and offer lower risk alternatives for adults who smoke. And we believe there should be risk proportionate taxation on tobacco products, and FDA authorized lower risk nicotine products should be accessible and affordable for adults who smoke cigarettes and want to quit. So Senate Bill 198 effectively doubles the excise tax on all nicotine pouches. These are products that are much safer alternatives for adults who've been unable to quit smoking. And with that in mind, we opposed the proposed excise tax on nicotine pouches. And really, our concern reflects, our position is reflecting the concern for the roughly 30 million Americans who continue to smoke cigarettes. These are largely working class Americans. These are veterans. These are people with mental health challenges. Many of them work paycheck to paycheck. Most of them want to quit smoking, and most of them at this point have tried to quit smoking probably multiple times. And it's cigarette smoking specifically, not nicotine use generally, that remains the leading preventable cause of death in the United States. Each year, cigarette smoking is responsible for 1,000 premature deaths in Vermont. It's responsible for nearly a third of all cancer deaths in the state, and more than $400 million annually in direct healthcare costs. And approximately $100 million of that is covered by Vermont's Medicaid program. So given the harm caused specifically by smoking, reducing combustible use as quickly as possible is the most impactful public health objective for tobacco control. So, we believe that tobacco tax policy should be risk proportionate, and maintaining price differentials between products will help more adults who smoke move away from cigarettes, which remain uniquely lethal. And, to be perfectly clear, young people should never use nicotine products. And I think everyone testifying on this bill wants to protect youth and would agree with that. PPI's tobacco policy positions are based on the best science available and with a factual and pragmatic understanding of both youth use and adult smoking cessation. And really, I've just, for those suggesting there's an epidemic of youth pouch use, the primary national data tells a different story. The National Youth Tobacco Survey, which is conducted by CDC and FDA, shows that overall youth nicotine use in the United States is currently at the lowest level in 25 years. And nationally, only 1.8% of teens use nicotine pouches at any point over the last month. But if you look at just those teens who use pouches on 6 or more days in the past month, it's less than 1% of teens. And FDA, they carefully evaluate youth use when making their authorization decisions. And FDA has authorized several nicotine pouches, concluding they, quote, have the potential to provide a benefit to adults who smoke cigarettes, sufficient to outweigh the risks of the products, including youth. So I'll just wrap up here. So why would FDA reach a conclusion that seemingly contradicts what many tobacco control advocates are saying? It's because they're balancing the needs of both youth and adults. The FDA knows that while youth pouch use remains low, 56,000 Vermont adults still smoke cigarettes. FDA recognized tobacco products exist along a continuum of risk, and that it's cigarette smoking, not nicotine, that kills 500,000 Americans every year. FDA also knows that 70% of people who smoke cigarettes want to quit, and although half try to quit every year, fewer than 1 in 10 who try to quit succeed. The reality is that many adults who smoke are turning to lower risk alternatives to improve their health and to quit smoking, and they're choosing products that significantly reduce exposure to the toxic chemicals found in cigarette smoke, and they should do so. And then finally, we believe S198 includes several measures that will strengthen youth protections, including prohibiting deceptive youth-oriented product designs, strengthening penalties for underage sales. We support the proposed repeal of civil penalties for youth possession of nicotine products. And importantly, none of those measures would discourage adults who smoke from trying and hopefully switching entirely to nicotine pouches. So at a time when public health policy can better support adults who want to quit smoking, significantly increasing excise taxes on nicotine pouches will undermine that transition. And for these reasons, we strongly encourage you to oppose proposals that would substantially increase taxes on nicotine pouches. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm just curious, given you're such a fan of these pouches, what's the success rate of people actually weaning themselves off the pouches? Because nicotine is a bad addiction, something not great. It's bad to be addicted to nicotine too. So I guess my question is, yes, I appreciate that they're being used to wean themselves off cigarettes, which are far more harmful, but these are not great for you, and they certainly aren't pleasant socially. What's your rate? What are the statistics on how long it takes them to wean themselves from these?
Sure. Well, there are emerging studies that I'm happy to send you from Rutgers and Yale universities that look at nicotine pouch use across the whole population. Nicotine pouch use among adults is nicotine use is most common among adults who have recently quit cigarette smoking or using other tobacco products. So that's at the population level when you look at current prevalence rates. In terms of studying them as a smoking cessation aid, there are studies like that underway. I'm not aware of published studies to that effect. We do know that folks are choosing these products as an alternative to cigarette smoking and as an alternative to other more harmful smokeless tobacco.
And we appreciate that. I'm just wondering if they're successful. I mean, because being addicted to nicotine isn't much better. So I guess, what you're concerned with, we have just, I believe, turned into a study that the tax department and the Department of Liquor and Lottery are going to be doing on all the proposed taxes, and they're going to weigh and look at them in terms of how we do this as an excise, you know, how we're actually going to manage it, because it's fairly complex. We have never taxed by sort of a concentration. And so they are going to come back to the legislature with a recommendation on actually how we go forward with this. So at the moment, we are not proceed. We're turning that into a piece of work that the tax and DLL are going to do, along with
You bet.
Okay.
I can appreciate that. I think that nicotine pouches, the milligrams that are listed by the companies are generally listed by milligrams per pouch, as opposed to a milligram per gram sort of thing, as kind of was suggested by S198. So yeah, good that you're looking into that and how best to approach that. So
complex, and what's not going to be
complex.
something we were able to actually resolve by the time that we have to get this bill out of our committee. Does any committee member have a question for Jeff? Oh, David? No, that was a no. Jeff, thank you very much. Have you submitted your testimony to our committee assistant, Kiara Mead?
I will submit written testimony as soon as we're done. You bet. Okay,
Because
thanks so much for the opportunity.
Particularly the concentration piece would be helpful for tax and DLL as they review this. Thank you.
Sounds good. You bet. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Mike Kelly, please join us.
Yes.
Yeah,
Is it
absolutely, the
great?
hot seat.
The hot seat, all right. Well,
Welcome.
thank you. I appreciate you having me.
Happy to have you.
Hopefully, I'll keep this brief, probably under 10 minutes, but I do think I have some information for the group.
And I believe, I'm sorry, but I believe you kindly have provided us with.
Yes,
Thank you. It was there somewhere.
yeah. And
So if you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself.
certainly.
Go for the guns.
My name is Mike Kelly. I'm the president of Core-Mark. We're a wholesaler in Maine. And Core-Mark is a nationwide company that supplies convenience stores and retail outlets. As a supplier, like I said, we supply convenience stores and retail products, retail locations in the state of Vermont with a variety of goods, including tobacco products. And while my company supports increased enforcement of the illicit nicotine products and appreciates the state's interest in protecting the tax revenue on tobacco products, I'm here today to voice my opposition to S198, specifically as it relates to the stamping of individual packages of vapor products and oral nicotine products. As a wholesaler, our business is based on efficiencies. The margins we work on are very low, literally a penny or two per dollar after operational costs. And our warehouses and set up to stamp anything cigarettes. Currently, there's no technology available to stamp the sealed roll of nicotine pouches. Vermont would stand alone in the nation as the only state to require stamping on vapor and nicotine pouches, placing an extreme technological and financial burden on wholesalers to comply with unclear regulations. Until such technological advances become available, we would need to physically open each sleeve or box and hand stamp each unit, then figure out how to reseal the product so it maintains the original integrity of the packaging. Not only would that be extremely time consuming and require additional staffing and warehouse space, but if opening a roll means that one is, quote, relabeling the product, unquote, and the federal interpretation of manufacturing says that the federal designation changes from a supplier to manufacturer in that case, there is concern that this subjects Core-Mark to additional regulations and compliance issues that have only been applicable to actual manufacturers previously. But Core-Mark takes compliance seriously. We're a publicly traded company and knowingly put ourselves at a disadvantage in the marketplace by adhering to federal guidelines around tobacco products, especially in the vape category. couple years ago when several US senators, including Bernie Sanders, sent warning letters regarding the sale of illicit vape items to some of the larger wholesalers and convenience retailers in the country. We were already in compliance, as were most of the recipients of that letter. We played by the rules, yet legitimate wholesalers would ultimately bear the compliance costs associated with F-198, while bad actors evade responsibility. For decades, Core-Mark and others in the wholesale community have taken pride in collecting and remitting state taxes for Vermont and other states around the country. And I'm encouraging you to work with us versus against us when it comes to efficiently and compliantly distributing age-restricted products. And, you know, we have had a few calls at the time, or we had one call at the time it was at Brandon, before it was under their auspices, around regulation and enforcement. And, we are in favor of, you know, the removal of illicit products from the market. It would help us as well as obviously help the use of everything else. But, what I think, you know, it's a complex, you know, it's a complex business and it's a complex topic. So I just put together a few slides here, just to kind of be.
Yeah, were you here when you heard that tax is taken on?
Yes, and I mean,
work of
and
that, so that we're not jumping into this right away.
no,
It is complex, we recognize that.
and we are very willing to work towards a means of.
And actually, your testimony, if you'd be kind enough to send that electronically, I think they would be interested in seeing.
Great.
Because I think what we want to do is make a system that's efficient.
Yeah, I don't know if you were here for Rebecca Smirnoff in the tax department, but she echoed a lot of what you're advocating
Yeah.
for, and I definitely supported, or the vape directory has supported this.
Okay,
solution, so
great.
it's great to see that your suggested alternative.
Great. Super. Would you mind, Kara, just going to the videos? I think most of these are obvious.
This is what tax does here in our state. They do this stamping.
Good.
You want the videos?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
just to kind of show you the difference right now between.
You have preference to which one first?
The cigarette stamping machine first. So we have two cigarette stamping machines. They're expensive to run, but they do help us stay within compliance to run by the tax rate system.
So do you run those for other states? Because tax does our stamping, is my understanding. Is that correct?
No, we stamp the cigarettes that go into the state of Vermont.
We sell you the stamps and you apply them.
Correct.
He has the machine.
Okay, so we sell you the stamps.
Correct.
And you apply them.
Correct. Yeah. So there is a machine, a red stamp machine. There's two, MyCorp and
Stop.
there you go. So this is an order that's been picked. She scanned it. It's going into the system to see if one of the product is regulated or under, you know, is authorized, deauthorized for that particular state, making sure that the correct amount of stamps are affixed. The machine opens up the carton, applies the stamps, reseals the carton, and then it's pushed down into this red box here, and it's aggregated and stacked so they can be put into bundles of 30, which we then go out and deliver to our customers. We run this probably 10 hours a day. We can supply Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and a little bit of New York with cigarettes. So the machine is able to determine which stamps to apply to which products, and then we're alerted and the machine stops if there's a carton missing or something happens. And then the next. So it's quite a sophisticated system when you look at it.
What percent of your sales are cigarettes and vapes?
Between the two, I'd say around 78%.
So a huge percent of what you distribute are.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I'd say between 70 and 78. It's decline. Obviously, cigarettes are shrinking. Carton decline is around 6 or 7% per year. So, you know, there are other categories such as food service and other categories within the store walls that are kind of making up that difference.
Yeah, and how many stores do you have in Vermont?
Between 120 to 150, depending on when the camps open or, you know,
Oh,
there's
it
a
says here right here at the top.
seasonality.
And what percent that, I think that you just ended it.
Yeah. We
Okay,
have,
second video.
we have about 15 Vermonters that work for us as well, between
great.
drivers and salespeople.
And where are you in Maine?
We are in Gardner, Maine, which is about 40 minutes north of Portland. This is a gentleman, he's applying stamps to a pack, to a carton of filtered cigars. And this is him trying to get the same stamp to stick on one pack 3 times before he finally gets it to go. So you can imagine, over 600,000 units of oral nicotine, and to do that by hand would be, extremely laborious. But it sounds like you have discussed some alternatives, which is great.
Well, we're gonna have some recommendations. They're gonna look at this because it is very complex. As you say, the inefficiency of hand stamping. And we understand that everything basically other than cigarettes in boxes are hand stamped.
Right. And I mean, I have some props if you'd like to handle and look at the props.
We love props.
Do you love props?
We do. I'm a former theater producer.
Oh, okay. That's great. Just to kind of give you an idea of the difference between the packages.
Creating theater.
I'm not creating it.
I snuck them.
It's better.
Snuck them through security. But you can see this is for the more popular brands, and we only sell, we don't, get into the, the disposable Chinese vape or anything like that. These are all been, going through the PTMP. But this is an oral nicotine pouch.
That's a pouch.
This is,
Put that in your mouth, the whole thing.
You don't.
no,
stand
there's, this is 4 milligrams. There's probably 20 pouches in here.
Oh, okay.
Not super familiar with that, but it comes with a drink wrap on it. This is probably one that you see a lot more out there, or a lot of companies like that. This is,
I've actually heard of that.
yeah, there's a lot of them like that. This is it. It also comes in,
And what's that?
this is an oral nicotine pouch.
That's a pouch also.
This is Views. This is a vaping, unit. And this is Jewel, which I'm sure you've
Right.
heard, and this is
And you
also.
stamp each one of those.
There's
Don't
no stamp,
stamp
yeah.
You don't.
No, we
stamp
don't
them.
stamp those. What we do is we pay the tax, charge the tax to the customer, then the customer passes it on the retail price.
Right. Well,
Um,
a picture's worth 1,000 words.
You know this market well. We're hearing that there are people that are importing not within the confines of law. Are you seeing that as well? Like people are buying these things from all over the place and selling them to retailers and they're reselling them without paying the taxes that you're paying?
you do see that. The discussion earlier was about online sales, and we don't see that as much, but we've certainly seen in the past people buying product in lower tax rate states, and then we call them the white vans, and then driving them up and selling them, direct to retailers. And, I do sympathize that very hard to determine, if we were talking to Brandon about it, they could buy product from us from 1 week, have a record of that, but then buy 3 weeks worth from that, counterfeit. So,
We have 92% markup, right? So what is the low tax state out there that they're buying from?
well, New Hampshire, for example, probably, 4-pack of this costs $38 in Vermont. It costs about $18 or $19 in New Hampshire. In Maine, they just went up. They raised their tax to 75%, so they're right around that $34 range now.
David, did you have a question?
92% markup. Isn't that what we're marking?
Wait, what has it? That's what you have, is it?
No,
that's
we don't.
not Vermont, it's
We're- Yeah, that's what you guys put on top of it.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We don't want people smoking or vaping. Taxing education, I learned in Ways and Means.
Yeah.
Tax the bads. Sorry.
No, that's, no.
It clearly, and I think the advantage, yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for.
And thank you for supplying our convenience stores.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
I don't know, people afford to smoke these days. Like a cigarette's almost $1 a piece.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
how they're.
Marijuana's what?
14 plus the sales tax, so it's 20 to 21%.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We are very grateful. Thank you for coming all the way to Maine.
For these gifts, you're keeping these?
No,
It's for your kids.
so I don't even want to go to the cinema. Just to show us the pouches, because Jeff, of course, has been talking about the pouches. The pouches are quite small, it sounds like.
Yeah,
They're 20 in that little tiny packet.
there might be 15 and on, but there's 20 in a Zin thing. They're just about the size of a tablet.
Yeah, they still require spitting. It's totally disgusting. Thank you. I think we are now up for Maggie. Maggie, I saw you arrive.
I am here.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure it's food poisoning, but I'm just being very safe.
Oh, we're
So I'm gonna do my best.
Thank you for making the effort to
Of
join.
course, yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. I wanted to be here for the fun.
Well, and the drama and the props.
And the jewel pump, apparently.
Welcome.
Thank you. For the record, Maggie Lenz. I'm here on behalf of the Retail Grocers Association today. Chair Clarkson, members of the committee, the retail grocers represent over 300 members right now. Represented all 14 counties, are job creators for over 108,000 jobs, and contribute about $9.2 billion in total impact to Vermont's GDP. The RGA opposes the proposed increase in tobacco retail licensing fees and the restructuring of nicotine substitution taxation. I just want to thank Commissioner Knight for coming in and saying what she said. I think we obviously, no surprise, agree with her on the licensing piece. I will just go off written testimony for a little bit to say, the numbers are compelling. Our members are compliant. They are following the laws. They are law-abiding store owners. They are not the problem. The committee took up last year, I believe it was the flavored tobacco bill F-18. And I think you saw numbers there. Most of these issues that you're seeing, these illicit purchases and sales, are coming from online. These are not our members. And so we're strongly opposed to this steep increase in licensing fees. That would be something like, I think, bless you, Madam Chair. So yeah, the data is showing that this purchasing is coming online from illicit markets. And so I think it's important that you're focusing on where the problem actually exists and not on hardworking Vermont businesses that are really struggling. You're hearing this in, across committees jurisdiction that business owners are really struggling to make ends meet. And this is not a small fee for them. I think one of the members informed us that this increase would look something like $50,000 across stores, because don't forget, this is nothing to do with how much they're bringing in. It's not proportional, and it is per location. So this is really, really cost prohibitive for many people. So we do support enforcement that's meaningfully addressing the illicit market, but a 12.5% increase in licensing fees combined with a structural tax change that really, from our perspective, could drive people even further to the illicit market. We make those kind of changes. That's what tends to happen. So I'm gonna submit this written testimony, so you'll have this, but I don't need to read it.
Feel free, you have time.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Were you in the room where Section 8 is being totally
Yeah.
redrafted as a study that tax and
Yeah.
DLL on the license, on the taxation,
Yeah.
excise taxes?
Yeah. I just want to say, I think so. We definitely, we can support enforcement. I think we support a more level playing field where you are enforcing the laws and hopefully diminishing bad actors, right? But I think to create just, one position in DLL, they are an incredibly effective partner. They're an incredibly effective regulator, but just question how one position is going to the risk reward. I think analysis needs to be done. That's a lot of money for retailers. Is that one position really going to make that much of a difference in terms of compliance? We're already reaching 90% compliance.
Yes, right, Brandon.
Thanid you.
Brandon said it. Roche
glad that was highlighted.
they do an amazing job.
Bears repeating 90%, over 90%. Yeah.
So if you support enforcement, would you also support increased penalties on
I'm not gonna sit here and say that.
failure to comply.
Yeah, so I think be more open to that discussion. I don't feel like I'm at liberty to sit here right now because that wasn't the question that I was responding to earlier to say, yes, that's what we support, but certainly much more open to that discussion. I think that may get at the problem more directly than what we're talking about here with already compliant store owners. And I think we could absolutely support, seems like there's a broad agreement here that we could support a ban on deceptive devices. But I think the taxation piece is very concerning. And then obviously our strongest opposition is against the licensing increase. And I think that just about covers it. I will submit my great comments.
You deal with online competition all the time. How are we actually gonna get at producing online purchases?
Oh,
Bootleggers.
I think that is a question for the regulator that I cannot
Yeah, but
answer.
you're a creative thinker. And you have dealt with this market now. The VRGA has had to deal with online competition now for quite a while. And illegal competition, some of it legal, some of it not, obviously cigarettes not. We'd appreciate your thoughts on this because this is our biggest challenge. If this is where our young people in particular are getting their vapes and their nicotine and their cigarettes, sadly. I say that broadly to everyone online, around the world. This committee would really appreciate some creative solutions on how we enforce that, and we may have to do that through. It's unclear to me how we do that, other than having enforcement people drive around with FedEx and UPS. And actually, every time I get sent a bottle of wine or something for Christmas, I have to show my ID. How is that not possible for everybody who's getting?
Why would I see you at the bar when I bartended it? I'm not gonna, on the spot, I cannot answer that. That is a complicated conversation.
To all
But
of
I
us
will-
because we have to figure out how to practice them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say that we would be happy to come to the table and have that conversation and try to actually think deeply and figure that out. I don't think it isn't for the most part, not our numbers that are causing increased abuse. Okay. They take it very seriously.
Right. Thank you. Any questions for Maggie?
Thank you.
So we have 20 minutes. Patrick Tiverton is going to join us. And so Rose, you are up. If you would like to do sort of clean up for today.
I appreciate the
welcome you back.
opportunity. Thank you.
Good to have you.
So for the record, Rose Kennedy, Assistant Attorney General, tasked with tobacco enforcement at the Attorney General's office. So I think first of all, what you heard is that there's widespread support on banning the deceptive products that are meant to look like kids or highlighters or inhalers, those stealthy products that are actually vapes that may be attractive to kids and adults wouldn't recognize. So hopefully you act on that. I think what's important in this bill is that we're actually asking you to enforce the laws that we have and to make sure that they're being enforced. We're not really asking for a whole lot of new stuff, but making sure that our regulation is meaningful. So for instance, right now, the tax on vapes is collected at the wholesale level. And I think we met recently.
Yes, we did.
And there is a value in making sure that the vapes and nicotine products that are in the retail stores, that we have a very clear way of understanding if the tax has been paid. Right now, it's a bit of a black hole because it gets paid at the wholesale level through the Department of Tax, but no one's going into the stores and saying, oh, that matches what the wholesale paid tax on. So I think you would support a better system about going into the brick and mortar stores and actually making sure that the Vermont tax has been paid and collected.
Particularly on vapes or on tobacco substitutes.
Yeah, and I think we recognize the problem that you're not dealing with these uniform packages like cartons and packs of cigarettes, and I also appreciate that Vermont is out there, but we got to get there because these products aren't going away and we need to make sure that we're regulating them. And I will tell you that after we met with you, we did meet with a member of the industry who has a product that is an MSA product, Master Settlement Agreement, so it has to have a tax stamp.
So has to come up with a solution, and they're doing it. They found a machine that will actually do this. And we also know that some states require it on little cigars, which are different than a typical cigarette. So you talked about 21st century solutions. The time to have that conversation is now. I appreciate a study. We didn't want to like force this down people's necks and say like, you need to have this stamp by July 1st, 2026. But please don't push this out for years. Like, let's get this done. Let's get the stamp done and come up with a solution. So that when DLL goes into a store, they can see that Vermont tax has actually been paid. Make sense?
Yes.
And so we would ask to be part of that study. I know you talked about tax
Yes,
and
we have
DLL.
talked about you guys being part of it.
Great. I think it's important to sort of go back to my original testimony that the majority of these products that are on the store shelves, with all due respect to the retailers, have not been FDA authorized. They are technically illegal. So retailers have been making money off them, and they are
So the majority of the tobacco substitutes.
correct. There's only been, I think, 39 vape products that have been authorized and 26 pouches. So the rest that you see on the shelves are illegal. And so we're doing our best to deal with a federal government that hasn't taken action on it. And one of that is to make sure that the Vermont tax laws are being upheld.
So, sorry, just
go
to back up for those of us who don't live in this world.
Yeah,
So if it's not FDA approved, no one should be selling them.
well, so
Are you saying to us that it's illegal to sell them if they're not
technically, they
FDA?
are illegal products. The FDA has taken the position that they will not use their prosecutorial discretion and go after these products right now because of the backlog that I talked about in my first testimony in trying to get these products authorized. And they never say approved, just so you know, they say authorized because they are still dangerous products. But yes, technically, these are illicit products, the ones that have not been FDA authorized.
David,
Can you expand that into the greater market? Like, if you went into Hannaford, how much of the store is FDA? And I don't
I don't know that
the-
Hannaford sells them, but
No,
like
no, no,
say,
I'm not,
okay,
question's different. So you're focusing on vapes, right? I'm asking, if you walked into Hannaford, how much of that store is FDA authorized? I really just don't know.
oh,
No,
not
but it's a
everyone
little bit
votes, you know.
different because of it being a tobacco substitute product, which gives FDA the authority to, I don't know offhand what in general products land FDA.
Okay, I'm
They
just
don't
wondering if they're,
see all products.
overworked and they just don't have the bandwidth to do that kind of. Anyway, I'm just curious.
Yeah, no, it's kind of confusing because why are they there then? But I think in my first testimony, I explained that this market sort of
Through like top.
grew overnight.
Yeah,
And
it's been
I know. And so that's why we're here trying to come up with a state law solution to sort of help us regulate this market. That's kind of, in my opinion, out of control. Go ahead.
I became additionally concerned about the ones with the screens and the games and the things.
Oh, those kinds of
Yeah.
things. I was thinking like flies. So I was thinking like screen doors. But we saw some of those
Yeah,
ones with
yeah.
screens on them, and those are deceptive, and that's what this bill prohibits.
Right,
So-
so can you remind us what the provision in the bill is there and if this would change that provision?
So I think the ones, it would hit some of them pretty obviously, like the gaming devices that would have smartphone capability.
Okay, meaning they connect to the internet?
Well, yes, and
Okay,
they're specifically meant to look like a game that kids would be attracted to.
right, I just want to make sure that our definition,
For the deceptive products, I think it would cover that.
It's page 12 here, if you want to.
I'm not sure that every single vape that has a smartphone capability would be covered by that language,
okay,
but
Could we?
Big phone. That is a big.
yeah, I mean, I think there's like ones that look like smart watches. I think that technically that would be covered. I mean, obviously these would be litigated issues, but that's our understanding.
Okay. So it's an interesting question. And Mike, while we have you in the room, I mean, I do you have a policy about FDA approved products and not? And when you
Yes,
supply them?
that was the basis of that letter that got sent out. I think it came out from Dick Durbin, Senator Bernie Sanders and others, you know, and we're limited to a very, you know, limited range of SKUs in the vaping category that we
So
distribute.
you abide by that,
Yes,
what has been FDA
Yeah.
authorized.
correct. And you see the offset in the numbers where we're selling 600,000 units of oral nicotine and only 45,000 units of vape because, you know, with the 92% tax, in order to, you know, make it affordable, it has to be really cheap coming in the first place. So then when the 92% is added, it's a, you know, it looks like an economical alternative.
Thanks for going, Ms. Rosemary. Sorry.
Does the definition, is it possible to look at the ones that, where you can inject additional nicotine? Is that covered?
I mean, we tried to come at that with differential tax rate.
Okay,
And
okay.
that's what we're gonna be
Yeah.
studying now.
Right, so we tried to attack, you know, sort of attack that kind of product in a
Mhm.
different way.
Yeah, trying to think of all the things,
Right,
and that's not easy to.
So if I, why don't you finish? Because then I have another question for Mike after.
yeah, I mean, I'm glad that DOL came in and said that they are ready to take over some of the regulatory. It makes sense. They're the ones going into the brick and mortar stores and looking at the tax stamps on the cigarettes. We think it makes sense for them to sort of get into a place where they do that equally for vapes and nicotine products. Again, you know, we understand the idea of converting this to a study. We've just asked for a small timeframe.
So on the time frame, they
Yes.
asked for July 1st, 2027.
I mean, I'll leave that to your discretion. I mean, they gave you a reason why it, I'm not
You
sure.
don't want it to be 28.
Right, and especially on the conversation about how we actually verify that the Vermont tax is being paid in this from, you know, what's on the shelves of the stores. I think that should be something that lingers.
Perhaps they could do that soon.
Unless there's other questions, I think, I mean, I'm happy to answer anything more, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that in prior years before me coming in, I guess we had collected closer to about $1 million on online sales enforcement action. And I should also mention that we have gone after like big platforms. We had a huge settlement with Amazon, who was selling tobacco products for like 400,000. And I work with other states on other big platforms. So it's something that we're constantly trying to get at, but I do think that S198 was meant to sort of address not only what's happening online, but like what's actually happening in our stores.
Okay, right. So Rosemary, you're happily with us for most of this bill. Mike, I just like to get a sense of what you, by complying with what's authorized by the FDA, what, do you have a notion of what you're giving up, as it were? What other are most other suppliers and wholesalers complying with FDA authorization? Or are many, because my guess is the loss of revenue to you is substantial by not doing all these things.
Correct. I would say most of your larger wholesalers are, and that's where the
Are
opportunity.
complying.
And I think that you see the people that, you know, were traditionally based around just distribution of tobacco products. You know, there are a lot of smaller wholesalers that just did cigarettes and tobacco. So they've kind of painted themselves into a corner now where, you know, you have declining carton consumption and, you know, it will increase taxation, you know, and so that the volume is going down. So they're looking at these alternatives and as a way to make up
To
some
fill
of that
the-
revenue
to fill,
profit. Yeah, they're getting probably from China or.
Maggie, do you, is there a policy with our VRGA that would require, anything in the tobacco substitutes line have FDA authorization before they agree to sell it?
I'm gonna have to check in on that, get back to you.
I think we'd appreciate that. And I think it maybe is a new antenna or a new criteria. Anything else?
I guess just one last thing, I forgot to mention the point about separating out the tax.
Yes,
license. I mean, I think
interested.
the time is to make this more of an intentional act of selling tobacco and nicotine. And I understand sort of the desire to sort of lump them together, but they are different products. and having an endorsement remain in place, an endorsement license remain in place for nicotine products, I think makes sense. It, I think, gives some retailers the ability to say no, instead of just like, oh, I got this license for free, I might as well put it on my shelf. So again, you know, these are highly addictive. They are products that are growing a new generation of addicts. And so, you know, the time is to make it more intentional on everybody in the chain.
Yeah.
And I'd like it if there was an enforcement action and they get a fine and then they basically take away their tobacco license. They're like, you know what, it's not worth the headache. And then we have less tobacco being sold in
Yeah.
stores. I would support
So
that.
that penalty would be certainly more meaningful.
And happy to answer any other questions or come back if you have more.
My dear, you're next door, so we happily have you, we will be, as you know, addressing this and hoping to come to some conclusions next week.
Not next week.
The weekend,
Okay,
the week after town meeting break.
okay. Good.
And we will see you then. And if you have any 21st century thoughts between now and would be great.
I'm sure people could come up with something.
Listen, it's a try. I mean, I think that's where the gap, that's where we're seeing a lot of this access.
Right.
So
Hope you get some more of the Amazon cases.
I know.
Very nice note.
I mean, you can look at it as though it's getting harder for some websites to sell, but no, I hear you.
well, and if they just keep morphing and creating different websites, it's then hard to also follow up with compliance. Yeah, it's. And then I know there's a lot of pushback in terms of having to verify your ID online. I know we've heard concerns about that, but with young people, if we can't verify their age, I don't know how we do it because clearly it's failing at the point of the back door where they're accepting parcels.
Great.
So,
Well,
thank you.
for your time.
Thank you very much. Patrick is coming back, not with an interim measure on the joint fiscal note on the economic development bill. And at 11:50, we're going to get the new draft of X to 30 years. Patrick, right now, and Patrick, the seat has been vacated just for you.
So another their seat.
You and Rosemary just vacated it. It's just for you. Good morning. Thank you very much I think we have a copy of this for everybody. Appreciate you complying with my old eyes.
I'll still pull it up on the screen.
Great. That's terrific. So, and this is because getting a fiscal note this fast, this is Patrick's interim measure, which we really appreciate because this is what we are needing for us to weigh our decisions as we go through the economic development bill. And we'll be having the same thing with housing and, well, those are the other two. So Patrick, you want to run us through this?
Yep, I'm just trying to get into the Zoom, but while we do that.
Thank you.
Dickerson with the Joint Fiscal Office for the record.
Thank you for
I
that.
don't know if I got this.
I just have another one,
Okay.
just in case I was sure.
So I guess I'll do a little commentary while I pull this up. So I went through the bill and, as you know, the bill's not actually appropriating any dollars, but it, seems to be you signaling your intent for like
Yes.
what you would like to have appropriated.
We're asking appropriations to
Right.
consider the importance of these sectors and our business community.
And as we go through it, I just want to make sure that it does, in all cases, reflect your intent, because there were a few instances where it appeared that the dollar figure that was in the bill was inclusive. of
Oh,
what's
I
in the
see what you
government, and there's some other areas where I took it to mean in addition to what's in the government. So that's why in that one column, you'll see government plus what's in this bill.
Right. I see it particularly, for example, with the micro business. What we're wanting to is the difference between 493. So you got it. You got the 100,000. Yeah.
And then another one was BOREC, which you had listed as 200,000 in the bill itself. There's another 500,000, which is in the
governor's recommend, but which is
So-
not for this.
Right, so in total vote rec, exclusive of that, that figure would be $700.
Right, right. Thank you.
The one column which we draw from the last matrix was, what was in last year's. But
That we did not ask for, so I'm sorry, that wasn't conveyed or communicated to Heather. But we can maybe have that for next.
After, I could send it to you during lunchtime, so you can have that.
What?
With just the table and everything.
I don't understand.
So. You've got it up here.
Let's see, there's pulling it up in Excel just in case you did have anything.
So-
You thought maybe didn't quite mention it.
Right.
We can fix that.
So we have 20 minutes to, we can chat about this and where people are, with these amounts. It's our job to advocate for what we know is needed or feel is needed differently. And it is appropriations job to say, well, thanks, but no thanks. Oh, yeah, we feel this as well. It's appropriations job to make the final money decision, but it's our decision to recommend what we feel is needed. So, I would urge us to focus on what we want to advocate for. And as we go through that's sort of the lens that I think we need to be looking at. Do you have any other frame ups for us to look at?
Just one thing that you won't see in the table here is you have the additional meetings for the convention task force.
Yes, the minimum tab, yeah.
Yeah, so there
And
is
there's two now.
technically a estimated per diem cost for that. However, I understand that they had the same authority last year and did not end up actually spending it. Right, so
It's fairly de minimis.
I think it was about 7,500.
Yeah, that's anything under 10,000.
So when you have a lot of study groups, they can start to add up.
Yeah, I don't know. I appreciate that. So let's, should we start with dedication?
Oh, okay, if you wanna go
Let's
in,
just
well,
go in, let's just,
I was thinking more like we could start shaving things off and then see what we're left with, where we might agree with the policy, but we don't know what universe we're trying to live in. And I would just say, like, I think we'd have to prioritize it in the universe of the governor's recommend. Like that financial amount, we'd have to say, these are our top priorities in that amount.
and I would say the governor's recommend is the governor's recommend. We are a separate branch of government. We hear
Well-
directly from our constituents and from the business community that is providing and needing these resources. I don't feel compelled. I absolutely, I'm happy to.
Then I'll just say $5 million. I mean, I just say if we said, like, this is our box of $5 million, and here's the other things we care about.
Okay, so I would just say the chair of appropriations has not given us a sandbox of $5 million.
The chair of appropriations has said in various public settings, there is no additional money. So my next two follow-on suggestions are things that, one of them is something where I would take it out of this bill and move it to somewhere that there is an existing appropriation.
So that, again, is not our job, but I mean, I hear what you're saying. So you're saying, let's live in a universe of $5 million.
I think it is our job to say, these are the things we care the most about if there is no additional money. Or we get to also see where there are other funds where this would make more sense. So for example, because this is all general fund money, the Vermont Law School Small Business Law Center, I would take that out of here. They did just get money from Senator Sanders, but also I think the best way to give them more money would be to earmark money from the cannabis excise tax that goes towards small business development. You heard the small business development guys say it's kind of winding down.
They can't actually advise cannabis businesses.
They can with state dollars. They can't with federal dollars. I talked to them about this. So
Yes, that's right.
Bernie Sanders just got them more money, but they would not be able to use it for cannabis. If we give them state dollars, they would be able to do that for cannabis.
Great idea.
So I would take that out of here, out of the, just a general fund appropriation. So it's not,
We could put in this bill, we can say where it would come out.
I guess it's already, I think it's in the cannabis bill, which would also have an appropriation, so.
The Vermont law, small business. center
No,
is
but
not in
the
town.
appropriation is.
Right.
For small
But-
business.
We can, in this bill, direct that money to come out of that.
Yes, or I would just take it out of this bill and put it in the cannabis bill.
Well, that's a choice. So, but would you keep it at 300,000?
I'd say 250, honestly, just because I think that's like with the amount that small business gets, I think that's an appropriate amount to set aside specifically for legal assistance.
Okay, how do you gentlemen feel about that?
Make sure I understand what we're talking about here.
Okay, Keisha is proposing that
Law schools?
Keisha is proposing that that because Bernie Sanders has fully funded the Small Business Law Center, that
But none of that money could be used.
but that none of the money federally could be used for cannabis businesses. That the $250,000 be here pulled from the cannabis revenue to contribute to the small business law centers work with cannabis businesses. Is that also your additional recommend that it would be?
Yeah, and I'm just gonna go ahead and say, like, I really want to delete stuff from this list to have a serious bill. Like, I can't vote.
You know what? I take offense at that. This is a serious bill. We have listened for now 2 years to the resources that we think are valuable. We have not included all the resources we did last year. We have pared it down. I think all of these resources are important to our Vermont businesses. I don't think I think I agree with you.
Okay, you can take offense, but I have a hard time unless we delete some things, voting for a bill that spends money that we know doesn't exist.
And I take it slightly different.
Yeah, sure.
I think we all need to prioritize.
Yes, absolutely. That's what
So
this is
tunnel
about.
into one particular aspect that
That is
Right.
what-
I'm gonna propose that we delete the 300,000 from this list.
Right. I have that.
Okay.
I have that recommendation.
Okay, so
And
then I would propose we delete the 75,000 to the International Trade Division. We have given them money recently. They said they don't want it or whatever the case may be. I don't think we can afford to just give an entity $75,000. They say they don't want
Right,
and need
but-
right now. Tim Tierney does a fine job with Taiwan.
Tim Tierney is the one who asked for this. So it is,
Then why did his counterpart come in?
well, who knows? That's a good question. That because none of them ever want to ask for money. Even though we know.
I'm gonna
sometimes-
propose deleting that.
But that would be, you're right, that is a new program. It would be a new
Yeah.
piece. And I think that would be an appropriate
And we
thing for
know
us to pull out.
important Taiwan is. And we know what the Taiwanese government is doing,
Mhm.
to promote trade. And we know them
Yeah.
very high on our list of people with whom we cooperate
Right.
and depend on to an extent.
But until we have a New England agreement or some real plan, we can't afford to just give $75,000 to people
No, I
who
understand.
don't say they need it.
David, do you have any feelings about that?
Yeah, so actually I'm supportive of, trade opportunities that Taiwan and money. I, let's say it's one of my high priorities. Different perspective.
Sure, we didn't hear we heard from them that they have folded that into their existing work and they will not do anything differently, even if given the money.
So that's your suggestion. What are your other suggestions? If we're just gonna go. in?
Those are my two to delete, and I would
What's
take,
what's your other deletion?
the small business law center.
A portion.
But that, you're not deleting. it.
No,
You're
I would
suggesting-
delete it from this list and
You're
put it in the
suggesting-
cannabis bill.
Right, you're suggesting that we actually,
This is a general fund list.
Right, no, let me finish my sentence.
These are all written in the language as, general funds.
So I would just delete it from this bill. if we don't cancel.
But I wouldn't delete it from the bill. I would just direct it to come from the cannabis revenue. Because we're still wanting to support this as a resource
I
for
would,
cannabis business.
I would give appropriations a list of things we believe should come from the general fund. And because we have a cannabis bill, I would put that in the cannabis bill because I have other suggestions to bring this number down to what we think is actually reasonable right now, including the downtown and village center tax credit being 4 million instead of 5 million, and the brownfields being cut down in half to 1.5 million. So that, and to me, that's a serious proposal. I don't think we can go to them and say, no, we need 5 million and here's why. We need to try and live somewhere in a universe of scarcity of budget dollars.
I hear you. So those are good suggestions. And thank you for those. And that is true. Let's weigh in everybody on the downtown and village tax credit because Keisha is proposing that we consider 4 for that and
Man,
the demand exceeds the amount we have always. So
always it does, but do you have any idea of what the?
yes, they
total
gave it
ask
to
is?
us.
I don't
It's in
remember.
your materials and I can pull it up in 1 second. Hi, Greg. I didn't realize we're there. The demand is high. I know.
Perhaps I couldn't approve, or I think peaked out at like 8 or 9 million.
Yeah, it's super high.
It's super high.
It's super high. People love this program. Anyway, so other people on downtown, we have a proposal on the table at 4.
Give one realistic.
I think it's one of,
Not
you know,
unreasonable.
Randy, your return on investment, this is one of the most,
Yeah, I know.
the biggest returns on investment that we have.
Which is why it's all the
Yeah,
Brownfields.
I'm just trying.
I can certainly go along with it as a starting point. I could go.
to think, okay, I was, anyway. David?
Yeah, so I'm a supporter of the downtown village tax credits. But being a revolving fund with 11 years of history, I maintain to keep it at the current funding amount.
It's not a revolving fund, it's a tax credit.
Well, revolving tax credit. Every year we build, it pays back into itself, correct? Which by theory expands the tax credit each year. I can always explain, we have these questions.
Yeah, I know we did. And
I
one of the
don't
questions
think
that hasn't been underfunded all along because the demand is continuing to rise.
So the demand, I'm not reading this.
Sure, thinking about it different.
Anyway, the demand, and it's not clear here to me how many projects they that they don't, that they can't fund. But I know it's substantial.
I get it.
Yeah. And I apologize, but this doesn't have that, or at least not easily.
What's the amount that we put in, is not needed now. It's the same thing that we deal with housing. It's inflation is running ahead by far of anything we do. And so I would not be surprised if we don't get back what we put in 10 years later. We might get it back in terms of the dollars, but it's on dollars. You know, better value 10 years later. No.
It's not a revolving. Yeah.
I was confusing it with a housing bill element, so
Yeah.
high priority, at the very least, maintaining its current.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thomas?
I think they're all meritorious. I do agree that we need to prioritize. I sadly don't have any strong opinions over another on any of these. The money's not there. The money's not there. I say let's give downtown village tax credit 10 million, but it's not gonna be there. That's
Right, but again, it's not our job to figure out what's there. It's our job to be realistic. I agree with Keisha that it's important to be realistic, but I also think it's our job to advocate for our jurisdiction. So, David, you were at a minimum keeping governor's recommend.
I don't know,
And what would
And a high
be
priority.
your priority for that?
well, it's a number, it's a course order.
But at 3 million.
At 3 million per story. You want to see where we sum up.
Okay, you'd be willing to go higher if the numbers worked out. Okay,
Sorry, can I just ask which
Yeah.
section you're on right now?
downtown village tax credits.
Say.
So,
I am a
We're
little,
saying-
again, I'm a little hamstrung that we don't know last year, so we don't know what the growth is.
okay, I can tell you that the growth, the downtown village tax credits, I think was last year was,
So, I guess the little history on that, so in statute, the department's able to award up to $3 million in credits. In that given year, and that's been consistent for, I think last time it made a change was like 22.
I know that.
yeah, after Paul died, we tried
My
to take
comment
it.
is about the matrix, not about the individual line. It would be helpful to understand where we're coming from. It's just a bit of data that would be helpful for all the lines.
3 million.
I think we were,
Talking about 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6, etc. What was last year's?
Oh, that's different for each line.
It's right.
So
Saying that without that, it's hard to,
we asked, okay, so there's a difference between what we asked for and what we got. We got microbit, we did not get many of our requests because last year's budget was also very tight. And Patrick, you should just come back to us with these numbers because I believe micro business did get an additional amount. Professions of color did get what it got and it was in the base, I believe. But you could come back to it.
First thing I'll do when I leave today is add last year's funding levels to this table and maybe I'll have that. on
But you
the
also add last year's ask because we also asked for a significant investment and we didn't get it, which is fine. That's what the appropriations were.
that's hard to do because do you mean our ask or the organization's ask or the
Our
appropriation?
Our ask,
I
what
would
this
probably-
committee voted out.
That was S-122, right?
Yes,
So-
what this committee voted out is what I'd like to know. And then what was funded. Sure. And then this year, what the governor's recommend is, what is proposed. So I guess, given that we're gonna be turning to Sophie to do 230 in a second. What I would ask for us is to do if we have Keisha's priorities. And I'd love to be clear on everybody else's priorities if we could, but before we leave tomorrow. Patrick, if you could get us those additional pieces today, is that possible? So we'd have some possible. That'd be great. And then maybe hear from everybody by the end of the week, if we could maybe spend a little bit of time before we adjourn to. But I'm getting to hear it. So which is good, because we have to make these decisions. Thank you. Thank you for leading it off, Keisha Ron up. Good. So Patrick, thank you. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think I have some directive from you all.
Thank you.
I'll get you all
Appreciate
that
it.
information.
Great. And with that, we're gonna turn to Sophie.
Yes.
You can just stay there. Yeah. So we're looking at draft 3.1 of S 230.
Do you want me to put it on screen or just have everyone look at it on?
I think we have it all right here. And what we're looking at really particularly is the agreed upon language on page 3. Have you been able to put this up on the screen?
Yeah.
Oh,
do you want?
God, Kara. No, it's online for people to see. Okay, Sophie. Share with us what you have changed. We can see it, but you made choices because it's slightly different language, but the I declare part is the same.
It's the same language.
Yeah.
All right, good morning. Sophie Zadatny for the Office of Legislative Counsel. And you have in front of you draft 3.1 of S 230. And on page 3 in the middle of the page, lines 10 to 14 is the additional language And so this now provides that, and again, we're talking about adding victims of sexual assault, stalking, and domestic violence to the definition of crime victim under the Fair Employment Practices Act. And right now, the current language is that if you are a person that falls into that category, there are a number of ways you can provide supporting documentation to your employer. And under Romanet 4, line 7 on page 3, there's a self-attestation by the person describing the circumstances supporting the person's status as a survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, and stalking, for which no further corroboration should be required unless otherwise mandated by law. And then this adds in self-attestation shall include the following language above the person's signature and date. Quote, I declare that the above statement is true and accurate to the best of my knowledge or belief. I understand that if the above statement is false, I will be subject to the penalty of perjury or other sanctions in the discretion of the court.
Thank you. Thoughts? You got Brandy and good. Thank you. Getting the yes here. Charlie, would you like to weigh in? Are you still in the room? Yeah.
I am. Hello, Charlie
Wow.
Wilterman, Policy Director with the Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. This is language we feel comfortable with, and I appreciate the committee's work on this issue.
I appreciate our work on this, and thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Brandy. Dave.
Before we, as we near a vote.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if on page 1, line 3, are we still calling this a flexible working arrangement?
No, I think we title it at the end. Don't think it was.
So, yes, on page 4, lines 9, 8, 9, and 10, it says after passage, the title of the bill is amended to read an act relating to fair employment rights.
For motion, Madam Chair,
I
I would move that we approve favorably with amendment draft number 3.1 of S 230 dated February 26, 2026, 9:53 a.m. Did you get all that?
Yes, sir.
the clerk shall hold the roll. Thank you.
Senator Brown,
Yes.
Senator Chip,
Yes.
Senator Rollins.
Yes.
Senator Weeks, yes. Senator Clarkson.
Yes. Thank you. Who has interest in reporting this bill? David kindly has taken on 173.
Tactical decision.
Randy did a great job yesterday on our JR resolution. What was it? 42. Thomas, Keisha, either of you would be willing to take this on?
Always happy to do. You want me to do it? Sure.
Okay.
I'll provide backup if he needs it.
We sit next to each other. We're not
Exactly.
double.
But it is after the break and I don't want to promise everything.
Happy to do it.
Great. Thomas Chittenden kindly is going to take on reporting this bill with backup from his district mate. And as it has no appropriations, it may actually be on, yes, so it will go on notice tomorrow.
Are you sure? There's no underlying.
No. I will be curious to see where it gets sent, but I think it will probably get sent straight to the floor.
The underlying bill had an impact on the labor negotiations, so I would be shocked if it goes to appropriations. I think it's another point.
I'm never shocked at something.
So we shall see. And David, I've already spoken to the chair about 173 having really super de minimis appropriations.
I noticed it didn't pop back up from. So.
Yeah. Thank you. So Thomas, if you kind of take that up to the secretary.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you one without the highlight.
Oh, sorry. I didn't think of that. Yeah, I think that was that.
They're too finicky up there at the secretary's office.
My God, are they?
Bureaucratic.
Okay. Thank you, committee. That was good work today. I appreciate our getting together. That's not always easy. And Thank you. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Sophie. And, we have made our work on the consumer protection piece on the cigarettes. I think a lot, we've narrowed it considerably, which is, I think, a good step in the right direction. And I would just, it's a area, anyway, I would encourage us all to look at that over the break, because we're gonna have to make decisions about it fairly quickly, when we return.
What do we have tomorrow?
Tomorrow with campus. And we're gonna be beginning to make, so on the cannabis bill, so tomorrow we have a couple things. Tomorrow we begin with, the housing bill, looking at the home ownership associations. We're having 2 lawyers who specialize in home ownership. And we have the fiscal note on the housing bill.
Are we starting at 8:30?
We're starting at 8:30. And then because we end at 11:30, 11:25, and we go through till 10:15, where Tucker's going to pick us up on cannabis. And what I would really like us to be able to do with cannabis is be honest with each other about what sections really are sections that are challenging for you. Because I know there are some of you that have really some areas, and it's a big bill, and I acknowledge it's a big bill.
Well,
And you've got an avalanche that we didn't have before.
We had terrific testimony. We got lots of stuff to refer to.
Well, okay, so a lot of people's questions were related to how this harmonizes with other states or doesn't. And so I asked for, there were groups saying, well, the state does this and the state does that. And then they got us 3 experts from other states. And then the directive was, you don't have time for those. So that does concern me, because that's super valuable information to knowing if this is like how to make contact.
We've got a matrix, did we have one state versus another?
Yeah,
At least we know
you
the
walk
lands.
through it, but it's in our document.
Okay, I mean, people are still asking a lot of questions that can be answered well in other states. And some of it was, yes, in our matrix, some of it wasn't.
Yeah, and I don't know the matrix. For example, one of the things that struck me from a lot of the medical stuff that I got in writing was that we don't have the maximum amounts, right? We over prescribed, et cetera, or allowed.
Right.
And that this is very, very harmful to public health. And I got several others.
Oh, you mean, so those amounts all do harmonize with certain other states, and we could ask other
But that's
states,
the
how is that
question, yeah.
not?
Right.
Or like California allows delivery in counties where there's not an existing cannabis retailer. So there's nuance to what's been done, and I think it would be really valuable to have experts in other
From
states.
the 3 other states.
Yeah.
Well, again, as I said, with a lot of the input that we've got after we take the testimony, was stuff that I would love to have heard testimony about. We just had time, et cetera, et cetera.
Our time has been short. So, tomorrow we're gonna really go through this and see where you guys are. We've now heard quite a bit of testimony. We now have a lot on our website under this subject. I encourage us to review it tonight.
Well, yeah,
We are
just
not-
with the time, it's just the practical matter is it's easy for us to move quickly to vote on something where there's consensus, but where there's, significant consensus, we have to do more homework.
Right, absolutely. We need to do our homework. I also, it's a legislative life. This bill is gonna go to, hopefully we will be able to pass out some of this. This will go to the House. This will get a lot of time in the House. It's a priority of the chair of House Government Operations.
But I just want us to understand what's happening in other states, because
I
we are surrounded by other states that have an impact on our sales.
Right, and I think after we go on break, let's just review those 3 and let's see what we can get in next week. So,
Next week or Friday?
so.
I mean, and
Okay,
next
now,
week.
let's just talk that out, because if there are areas that this committee isn't gonna end up voting out, I don't want Tucker having to rewrite whole sections of it that are not gonna be supported. So I do think it would be great for us to just review the sections with Tucker and see where people are in terms of support and not support.
And you want to ask Tucker to represent which states have what.
And we could also, in between, if they were available at the top of that testimony, we could have the three, if we could get them in tomorrow morning.
Okay.
We could maybe have the 3 states weigh in before we have that conversation too. But I think we need to have a I really, given crossover, I would really like us to be recognized or honor Tucker's time and have him really only redraft and rework things that have a chance of passing out of this committee.
Right. I just want to recognize that until testimony, we didn't know that New York could advertise in Vermont.
Yes, that was true. That
So
was
we
shocked
just
us.
like, we are the Economic Development Committee and we need to recognize when there's a completely unfair
Yeah.
situation for our state's businesses from the surrounding states.
So let's take a review of the cannabis bill tonight. And we're going to be doing those pieces of the housing bill, and hopefully we're getting to a pretty good place on those 2 bills, housing and economic development. I think we're making good progress. And we will work on those right now. So thank you all. We're going to go off live and we will